I heard if you go to Dirt Crossroads, you can sell your soul. I tried that, but I wasn't prepared for what showed up. This story was submitted by someone named Jeremy, and he said in 2020 he was going through a very dark time mentally. He wasn't necessarily ready to end it all, but he was not doing well. That he was broken, lacked direction and guidance, and in hindsight did the stupidest thing that he could have probably done. The final straw that pushed Jeremy to do what he did came on Halloween night of 2020. He was already feeling very lonely and without a support system, and he found out that some friends of his, or people who he thought were friends, threw a big Halloween party and failed to invite him. He decided something needed to change in his life, and he decided to pull from folklore and try the only thing left that he knew to do in order to force change. He drove about 20 minutes to a dirt crossroad, parked the car, and got out. He said he had already tried everything else to make change in his life and nothing worked, so he had nothing else to lose. He got out of the car, knelt in the middle of the crossroads, and cried out to whatever would listen. He said, at the time, I didn't know who I was calling out to or even what he wanted, but he said when he knelt down in the crossroads, he yelled out to no one and everything at the same time, I'm here, whoever's listening, I'm ready to make a deal. If you show yourself, we can discuss terms. It was already spooky with it being Halloween and the middle of fall, but he waited about 30 minutes and there was no response from anything, and he felt silly that he thought that the idea of selling your soul would work anyway. Jeremy's stomach started rumbling, and convinced that nothing was going to happen anyway, he drove to a local diner. It was about 9:30 at night, and with it being Halloween, the place was empty. The host sat him at an empty booth in an empty part of the restaurant, and the waitress soon appeared to give him a menu and take his drink order. He perused the menu for a few minutes, and after a moment, she returned and dropped off his drink and said, I'll be right back. He said no problem, and because he already knew what he wanted, he put down the menu and started looking at his phone. After a moment, she showed back up at the table, and she said, what can I get for you? And without looking up, he repeated his order, and then she says, got it, and for you? And he looked up at her very confused because he's like, for who? And across the table, he sees that there is a man now sitting there who is very average looking, who he doesn't recognize, but who is smiling across the table, locked eyes with Jeremy. The man says, nothing for me, I'm just here for company, thank you. And the waitress says, okay, I'll put this order for you in and feel free to be out shortly. The man was not familiar to Jeremy at all, and he said he did not look young or old, but just an average looking guy that you wouldn't look twice at if you passed him on the street. As soon as the waitress walked away, Jeremy said the man verified his first, middle, and last name, his date of birth, and the time of his birth, and he tells Jeremy, I heard your offer, but I don't think it's time for that yet. Jeremy said he was absolutely shocked. He said, who are you? To which the man replied by laughing and saying, nothing special, but I promise you I've been here longer than you realize. Jeremy at this point was convinced that he had been set up, that his friends were pranking him. Maybe there was some light to be found in this situation, so he started frantically looking around, and the guy stood up and said, don't worry, I won't stay long and freak you out, I should be going. Before he walked away from the table, he said, I hope we meet again someday. Jeremy sat at the table and watched him walk out into the night, but after a moment he couldn't shake the feeling of needing to know who this man was, so he got up and ran to the restaurant doors. But the man had already vanished, and all he saw was a desolate parking lot. He did know that there were no cars leaving or entering the lot at that time, and it had probably been no more than a minute or two from when he got up from the table. It's been 5 years, but Jeremy says he is still terrified to this day about what the man meant when he said, not yet. He said, if you share this story, please remind people that if they call something to them, they might not always be prepared for what answers back. But even if you don't know who you're calling to, sometimes you still get a response. This is Spooky Scary Storytime, the series where we share listeners' allegedly true stories about the creepiest or most unsettling things that they've ever experienced. If you have a story you think no one would believe, please send it in. We would love to hear it.
Now, we have to say allegedly here because we don't know if this story is true or not, but the concept is true. People actually do this sort of thing. Now, I want to preface this because you cannot sell your soul. You don't own your soul. Your soul belongs to God. So when you're out here trying to sell your soul to the devil, it's stupid, first of all, and it's pointless, second of all, because you can't sell your soul. You can pledge your allegiance to the enemy, which obviously does work, but it doesn't work at the way you think. There's always going to be a cost. So you might get what you ask for. Yeah, right. You might have all the wealth in the world that you could ever desire, but you won't be able to enjoy it. The enemy will make sure that whatever he gives you, you will not be able to enjoy it. People around you will start perishing. People might even start dying. You might have cars and, all the cars in the world, but you'll crash them. They'll break down on you. Things like that. You might have a house, but the house might be infested with roaches or mice or some type of fly infestation, some sort of things like that. Never think that for a second you'll be able to sell your soul, air quotes, right? Sell your soul and be able to enjoy that. There's too many testimonies from people that have allegedly sold their soul and they did not enjoy the lifestyle that they had. And we see a lot of celebrities that sell their souls or whatever the case may be, and then they're unhappy and they off themselves. It's just the nature of the beast, right? I want to cover this comment right here. Now, this is no shade to this woman because she doesn't believe like I do. I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. And I know that he is the way, the truth, and the life. But there's other people out here that have different gods. And these gods, they're false idols. They cannot deliver. They cannot save. They cannot give you what you want without there being a demonic, deadly cost to it. This person right here says, the Crossroads are a gateway, Hecate's domain. Sounds like this was nothing to be scared about. The gentleman was most probably a guide, nothing nefarious. If you do go to a crossroads for something, always leave an offering, and when you walk away, don't look back, smiley face. Hecate and Hermes too. He is known to be the friend of mankind, so I agree. No need to fear. It's just a liminal space. I was thinking the man who did speak to him sounds like one of Hermes' human disguises. There are a few deities of the Crossroads, Odin, Janus, and are two off the top of my head, all to be respected but not necessarily feared, unless of course they feel disrespected. Maybe Odin paid him a visit. He does like to get dressed up and wander around. So this is crazy to me that there's people out here that think that this is a good thing, that think that this is nothing to be feared. Now, the Bible does tell us that we shouldn't have a spirit of fear and that demons flee in the name of Jesus. So, of course, we have authority over these demons, but why invite them into your life? Why give them place in your life and sit up here and say that, oh, these demons are innocent. These demons are good. You know, even the hospitals use the sign, the caduceus, which is it's linked to Hermes, the Greek god. This person says, I wonder if the guy was a spirit guide or a guardian angel. Maybe he was just there to reassure him that things were going to get better. That's not how it works, man. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I got zero bad vibes from the story. That's what I got. So did things get any better? That's what I was thinking. I feel like if it was negative energy, he would have known instantly. If it was a negative energy, it probably would have talked him into a deal for his soul right then and there. I'm going to tell myself this is so. I'm going to tell myself this so I'm not freaked out. This person says, or Papa Legba. Guys, we see a lot of these testimonies of people that have walked to the crossroads. They sold their soul. They've even met demons there. Papa Legba, Baron Samedi. What are some other ones? Obviously like Odin or Hermes. And this ain't nothing to be playing around with, guys. If you go there and you do these things, and you do these rituals, like the story right here that we're listening to, may not have had anything overly negative happen in it, right? But when you're offering yourself up to these demons, or you're opening the door to these demons, you have given them legal right. You've given them legal access into your life. So yeah, sure, maybe nothing will happen, surface level to where you understand that, oh, this is demonic activity, but you might start having nightmares, sleep paralysis, the little subtle things that the rest of the world minimizes. But if you have eyes to see and ears to hear, you understand truly what's going on. And it's a spiritual attack from these open doors that you've done here at the Crossroads, trying to seek riches and wealth, being foolish, being naive, thinking that there's no negative consequences from doing things like this. But we know that Jesus is the true vine. He's the one that gives all good things, and nothing that's good comes from anything besides Jesus, right? So when you're doing these things, you're pledging your allegiance to these deities, or you're making these offerings to these deities. Even the things that seem to be good come with a deadly cost. If you guys have any feedback on this, I'd love to hear it in the comment section. This is Ashley's channel. Let me scroll back up to the top. This is Ashley's channel. It's the same thing on TikTok and on YouTube. I'll leave a link in the description so that way I can give her credit for her work and you guys can follow her if you'd like. But that's going to do it for this one. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Until then, God bless.